All right, everybody, what's up? A special impromptu edition of the Due Dissidents podcast show here on Tuesday, October 11th at 4:17 p.m.
Breaking news, Angela Lansbury has died. So anyone who's planning on watching Murder, She Wrote after this podcast, that'll be a tribute viewing.
Yeah, I didn't know that. You just broke that news to me.
Literally, it just came over the wire.
Interesting. Well, rest in peace, Angela Lansbury, who I honestly have not followed the life of her very much. If you asked me 3 minutes ago, is she dead? I would have said, yeah, she is.
See?
That's one of those people you would just bet is probably dead.
Well, that's probably when it's time to die.
Right. Like
when if you ask the average person and they said they're still alive, it's probably time to go. It's time to check out.
Exactly. Like I'm trying to think of an actor. Robert Loggia, quick, dead or alive?
Alive.
No.
No.
See, so that's that's a situation like you didn't know, right?
Yeah. I assumed he's in a rest home for actors somewhere.
That's a fun game to play. 5 seconds.
Dead or alive.
Real quick. Dead or alive. Just name a person, and they have to say
Schneider,
5 seconds.
1 day at a time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm breaking a rule. I usually don't drink beer on the air, but I got a little Oktoberfest that I'm sipping here, and I'll tell everybody why. Okay, last time we were on the air, we talked a little shit. We did a little exposition, a little vamping about baseball because the Mets were on. Well, the Mets ate shit, and the Mets are out.
And that's what I said.
Tonight's New York Yankees, baby. Bronx Bombers in their building. Playoffs start this evening. And so the real baseball starts tonight. The real postseason begins tonight. So cheers to all my Yankee fans out there. Yeah, now Russell doesn't follow baseball enough to know that of all the divisive shit we have said, me doing a "Let's Go Yankees" chant is probably the riskiest thing you could say. Because the Yankees are the most hated team in the universe for good reason. We are the evil empire. I will fully admit that, right? My sports fandom does not jibe with my politics very much, right? If my politics were more reflected in my sports team preference, I would probably root for like the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Baltimore Orioles, right? But what can I say? Bronx guy, got that Bronx blood in me, and that's it.
Yeah, you're gonna wind up like Jann, Wenner, man. You know.
Yeah,
This is, and people are going to trace it back to your Yankee fandom. All right, I'm gonna quote fan of the show and sometimes columnist Mr. James Nagy. I've always found this to be one of his most insightful observations. He explained like a certain kind of New York asshole this way. He said, "Okay, so if you study martial arts, you're probably an asshole. Not necessarily, maybe not." But chances are you're an asshole. Now, if you study martial arts and you drive an SUV, you're almost definitely an asshole. Like that's very rare that those two things are going to be true and you're not an asshole. Now, if you study martial arts, drive an SUV, and you have a Yankee sticker in your back window, asshole. 100%, hands down, no way with those three things in play are you not an asshole.
Well, he's got to be a Mets guy, right?
James?
If he's a Queens guy?
Probably.
He's a Queens guy like you are, yeah. He strikes me as a baseball fan. I just saw him with the caps on a couple of the broadcasts we did.
I mean, he went to Second City. He could be a Cubs fan for all I know.
Oh, well, that makes sense. In fact, I think I saw him with a Cubs hat on. And so that makes sense. Man, if he went to Second City, we should have him as a regular because he's, that's the elite improv school, right? The elite improv troupe. So, yeah, Nagy is very good. Our pal Anish Shivani says, hey, I was going to send you the Tulsi DEMEXITS Substack thing I read this morning. Well,
I assume he means wrote. Did he write it?
No, I think he said read. Maybe it was announced on Substack as well.
I see.
But yeah, we do have a couple of topics to cover. This is not going to be a full-length stream. We'll probably go about 45 minutes or so. But we just have two topics. We were going to cover them both, and we figured, hey, why not go live and hang out with you all? Because going live gives us the chance to tell you all to sign up at patreon.com/do-dissident so we could do more of these impromptu live streams. And if you're watching on YouTube, that super chat really helps us out. So you could make it worth our while. You know, maybe we could raise $8 or $9 for 45 minutes work divided by 2. That's like, you know, $4. That's a half hour's work at the minimum wage, at the federal minimum wage level. So, you know, if you feel like you could do that, maybe, you know, throw a little buck or two in our tip jar, we would love you for it.
It's better than pressing license plates.
Mm-hmm. And the scenery's better too. Better atmosphere.
Much better atmosphere. It is. Look, you take care of us. Keaton doesn't have to do delivery driving anymore. I don't have to tour guide. I think part of our charm is that we are actually working class guys commenting on politics, and that's very, 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 very extraordinarily rare in this space. In fact, I can't think of anybody else that you could describe that way. But we want to join the elites, and we need you to help us. We need you to help us lose our edge. We're trying to lose our edge. We want to be those people you say, yeah, those guys, man, when they were like working class, they were cool, but now they fucking suck, man. They're just fucking 1% fucking assholes, man, and fucking windsurfing with Obama on fucking Martha's Vineyard. I can't believe I was a fucking Patreon subscriber with those motherfuckers. We want that future, so please help us.
I want to get big enough to the point where I could start a podcast with my wife and we can broadcast from bed and everybody will be like, oh, come on. No, that's what I want to do.
Right. But we can get away with it because we have enough money. We can wipe our ass with what you think.
You're right. Right. Exactly.
Right? They don't care what you think.
Emoji says live streaming is kind of like busking. It is.
It is.
It is. That's a very good comparison.
Yeah,
we start busting out the tunes here, but we'll get copyright claimed if we do that. So, all right. Ryan Wood says, I'm here for it. Tell me what's up, Jew boys. We have one Kanye fan.
We're gonna be taking down one of our own today.
Exactly.
Jann Wenner. He's a rich New York Jew boy, right?
That's true. Yes, that's true. We will have to go there, unfortunately.
And then it's really when you're okay. I'm letting you in on the family.
No,
secrets.
Keaton got bed head. Hold on one second. Keaton got work head because I wear a hat when I work, and so this is hat hair. This is working 7 to 3 with the hat on, and then taking it off and getting in front of the laptop to come be here. So it's not bed head. It is hat head. But I did register that my hair looks a little bit weird because of that.
When you're a Jew and you take down a Jew publicly like this, it's a whole thing. You have to go before the council and you have to explain why you did it.
It's like the mob. You got to get permission from the boss.
The whole thing, the Zionist occupation government has a sit down, and sometimes you don't get out of those meetings. That's why you see so many Jews disappear. They make it like, oh yeah, he moved to Florida. They didn't go to Florida. The Zog got him.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
All righty, let's get started here, shall we? So, Tulsi Gabbard made some news this morning when she published a video to her Twitter account formally declaring her exit from the Democratic Party. Now, this is done in preparation for a YouTube show and podcast launch, which is happening, I believe, in a day or two. So Tulsi wants to make sure she is officially branded an independent before she launches her career as one of our competitors. So just watch where you're going, bitch. That's all I got to say about that.
Stay out of our lane.
Here, you stay out of our lane. That's right. That's right. Exactly. Make sure you don't step on any toes here, if you know what I'm saying. What I say you can come out here as long as you don't step on any toes.
Exactly. Yeah. You can come around. You want to open a little ice cream stand? That's all right. That's all right. Just don't get don't get too big.
Exactly.
Don't start going in the taxi business, the garbage removal, none of that. That's ours. You want to do ice cream? It melts. We don't like
it melts. We don't care. It's melts.
Messy. We don't like that. We don't
like that. All right, let's take a look at Tulsi's rationale for officially exiting.
Can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness. who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
All right. I got to say, before I comment on the substance of what she said, the nice thing about Tulsi, the thing that I appreciate about Tulsi
the great skin. Are you going to mention the great skin?
Well, I'm not going towards great skin, but I'm going to a related place. As a content creator, you know, we had to put this stream up pretty quickly. We thought, okay, at 3:30, let's go live. So we didn't have time, right? So I had to make up the graphics for YouTube. So I had to pull a graphic from this video that she made. And, you know, when you're freeze framing video clips to pull graphics from, you'll very often get, like, I'm sure if you were to freeze frame a video of me talking, you'll get a lot of
yeah.
Tulsi, every frame of her looks perfect.
You always, whenever you
Right.
freeze, you're like,
Right.
I had no idea I bore that much resemblance to Peter Boyle.
Right, exactly. With us, you get the freeze frames.
Yeah,
With her, every frame looks perfect.
Like
you
Ren
can
and
pause
Stimpy.
that clip. Any frame looks
Yeah.
perfect, beautiful.
Yep.
So
Yep.
thank you, Tulsi, for that. As for the substance of what she said, I don't know. Did she say something about nuclear war? I don't know. I mean, that's a boring issue. I know nobody really cares about that.
Who cares
you
about
know,
that?
I mean,
Who
I
cares
don't
about
know.
that?
I mean, I remember her saying something about the Democrats are taking us to nuclear war. I mean, what a snoozer. I mean, a lot of people are not
1955.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean,
Ugh,
come on.
That's
nuclear
so
war.
1950s.
Yeah,
Talk
right,
about nuclear
exactly.
war.
Exactly.
God.
I mean, in all seriousness, that is the part that stood out to me. We are going to do a full segment this Thursday on our regularly scheduled afternoon stream about the J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan debate. I have a lot of similar commentary on that because the issue of nuclear annihilation came up there, and you got Tim Ryan standing on stage like a fucking doofus, just not seeming to be worried about it whatsoever. J.D. Vance is saying, wait, we should try and stop this. Right.
My family has always believed in service, eh?
Right.
We've always given service.
Right, exactly. And so a lot of the commentary from the left about Tulsi's resignation from the Democratic Party has to do with a lot of the culture war shit that she says with, yes, the anti-white racism and the anti-woke signaling. Look, that's part of her hustle. She's got to hustle. Everybody's got to hustle. All this thing, you're a grifter. Tulsi's a grifter. The Vanguard boys are grifters. Jackson Hinkle is a grifter. Jimmy Dore is a grifter. Let me let you guys in on a secret here. We're all grifters. We're all grifters. Everyone on YouTube is a grifter.
They're gonna drop that right in the ad when you try to run for Senate.
You don't like grifters?
fucked
Don't
yourself.
watch indie media. We're all hustling here. We're all on our hustle.
Yeah,
This is all a game.
All right, come on.
Okay?
I was going to save this for the Christmas episode. It's
No,
hard out here for a pimp trying to raise
Exactly.
the money for the rent.
Exactly. But look, I mean, yes, she does a lot of that stuff. She's carving out a niche for herself as the ex-Democrat gone conservative. She spoke at CPAC, right? But she didn't say she's joining the Republican Party. So she's kind of carving out a space for herself, like a Joe Rogan type, perhaps, in that sort of lane there. And look, the nuclear issue is a real issue. It's very possible that this is what put her over the edge. I mean, the Democrats have gone woke for a while. They've been warmongering for a while. But it's just this past week or so that Joe Biden admitted to a room full of donors that we are closer to nuclear Armageddon than we've been in 60 years. And no one seems to care about it. No one has anything to say about it. Anna Kasparian here, I'll put up a clip.
Well, the
And I
only
don't
people who have anything to say about it are fucking Republicans.
Right, exactly. Well, that's sort of what I mean. No one in the space of people who are like, shitting on Tulsi for dem exiting have anything to say about this. Anna Kasparian, and I don't mean to single her out because there were many tweets like this. This is just the most high profile one that came across my feed. Who could have seen this coming like 5 years ago? Ha 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 ha. I'm sorry, Anna. Wasn't it you who, in the immediate aftermath of the Roe overturn, you went on this epic rant, which we gave you credit for at the time, saying that you were done with the Democratic Party because they're useless? All of them, including the so-called progressives. So where are you now? What that tweet signals is that you're still a Democrat. All of this signals that we are still Democrats. Tulsi is no longer one of us. She was a turncoat. A turncoat from who? A traitor to who? A traitor to the Democratic Party. Right. Which is where all of this left of center energy is being funneled now. And the indifference on the Democratic side, the utter indifference to the prospect of nuclear annihilation. I won't even call it nuclear war because even that is sugarcoating it. Nuclear annihilation.
Okay.
I mean, where are you? Where are you?
I wasn't planning on mentioning this.
Too much headroom there. Flip your camera down. It was better before. Beautiful.
Yeah, but I gotta fasten it. Yeah, there was a little tragedy there.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Good. All right. So one of the things that's really difficult about being on the left is everything that you, and you know what? To be fair, I can't even say this is just left. It's just not swallowing corporate media propaganda. Everything that you say that could get you kicked off social media goes mainstream 6 to 12 months after you're saying it or trying to say it and trying to get around the censors to say it. So, guess what Newsweek publishes today? The U.S. needs to change course right now in Ukraine. And it does not pull any punches. This does not go halfway. This is not like a fucking Thomas Friedman article with its tortured metaphors. He actually says Ukraine, like Russia, is a deeply corrupt and oligarchic country, and Zelensky is a highly flawed leader. But despite his myriad flaws and status as a pawn of the Davos NGO globalist class, Zelensky remaining in power in Kiev is preferable to the obvious alternative. And then he goes on to say, hang on. Let's be as clear as possible. The median American citizen does not and should not care whether an ethnically divided, strategically unimportant, historically contested Slavic subregion or two in eastern Ukraine ultimately takes orders from Kiev or Moscow. Wow. It seems like a lot of people were saying that a year ago.
Right, exactly. God
and you
forbid.
weren't allowed to.
Right. God forbid you be right before it's too late. I'm sure that article will do very well after the nuclear war if the Wi-Fi is good enough to circulate it.
If you can still get it. Yeah. If your bunker is radiation shielded.
Right.
No, this is what always happens. All of a sudden, you can say these things once the infernal momentum towards total abject destruction has gone too far for it to do anything about it. Once the course can't be changed, then they let people say things like this.
Right,
exactly. At the moment when it could have an impact,
exactly.
They lock down the media. These opinions are not allowed.
Well, that's a great point because that's a great point, right? You're allowed to disagree past the point where your disagreement would actually make any difference.
That's
right.
It. That's it. It was the same with Iraq.
Same with Iraq, right.
All of a sudden, everybody realized this was a bad idea when it was far too late. We were fully committed. We're there for years by the time the press said boo about Iraq.
Right. Absolutely.
That's it. Because the contractors made their fucking money at that point.
Right, that's it. The money's already in the bank. They already got paid. The deal's already done. Right.
It's too late to cancel the checks now.
Exactly. Exactly. And so with this Tulsi announcement, I mean, yeah, that's the part that stuck out to me, is that no one seems to address the most important claim that she made. And she even said, most of all, the reason I am leaving the Democratic Party is because they are putting us on a path to nuclear war. So I understand how she is perhaps overcorrecting for the excesses of wokeism, you know, by saying that the Democrats are stoking anti-white racism and anti-police things and like that. You know, we've had some people in the chat comment on that. I would grant you that. Like I said, she's got her hustle. She's on her hustle. She's on her game. And that's her game. You know, I mean, look, Dave Rubin did a similar thing. Dave Rubin is not 1/100th the intellect that she is. But, you know, he did, you know, her thing too. And so, you know, that is what it is. But I think this point about the threat of nuclear war just not being paid any mind whatsoever by anyone on the left. Forget about the Democratic politicians. We're going to talk about Tim Ryan on Thursday.
The article says, what are we fighting about?
Right.
Some obscure regions in eastern Ukraine? Really?
Right.
That's why you're wearing your fucking little goddamn pin with your fucking flag outside over that? Do you even understand what's going on over there?
Yeah.
People are just fucking idiots. Like, it's just amazing to watch the liberal class just sleepwalk into nuclear annihilation with no protest. They're such fucking lemmings. It's
well,
just
oddly
incredible.
enough, that's exactly the phrase that J.D. Vance used in that debate. I don't want to talk more about that. I don't want to step on our segment for Thursday. But he said Joe Biden is sleepwalking us into a nuclear exchange. And that's exactly what's happening. And we know that's what's happening. We know that establishment Democrats like Tim Ryan are going to be following in lockstep. I know all that going in. How nobody, not Mike Figueredo, Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur, none of the people who I'm sure are, you know, either taking a victory lap as the we had Tulsi's number all the time, or fuck Tulsi, we always knew she was a traitor, all of this going on. Nobody in that frenzy, you can't address her point about nuclear war. You can't address that point. I mean, it's like this is a non-issue. It's just extraordinary. And so Tulsi has exited. We wish her well on her journey. I have not officially exited yet, since I'm too lazy to walk down to the wherever I would have to go to fill out the form. I don't even know. I was going to after the 2020 primary, but that's right when COVID hit, and I'm like, oh, I can't go now. And I just never got around to it. But I'm with you in spirit, Tulsi.
I didn't do it because New York, it's like a vestige of Tammany Hall. New York remains the most corrupt state in America, going back to its legacy of being run by this very corrupt political machine. And a legacy of Tammany Hall, which was a Democratic organization, is that they make it almost impossible for an insurgent candidate to surge, because you have to be registered as a Democrat. I believe it's at least 6 months before the primaries to vote in the primary. So that's their way of locking out insurgent candidates. So by the time they would catch fire and start registering people, it's too late. They can't vote. They can't vote in the primary. So that's why I haven't done it. Although, I mean, it's essentially moot. Half the time I vote for Bruce Wayne. So I don't, you know, I mean, it would be purely symbolic. One more point I want to make about Tulsi, though. For me, Tulsi is on this list of people who are very high profile examples of how the Democratic Party, in its attempt to enforce absolute orthodoxy, absolute conformity, and to force everyone in the party to have one opinion, very often opinions that are deeply unpopular with most people in the country, including people who would not consider themselves necessarily conservative, just keeps driving very high profile people who, if they played their cards right, could have been very powerful allies and surrogates of the Democratic Party away from the Democratic Party. Tulsi Gabbard is a great example. She was here you have this person of color who serves in the Army Reserves as an officer status, continues as a congresswoman to be in the Army Reserves. Overall is on the left, but has some conservative social positions, not enough really to drive her into the wilderness, certainly not as conservative as, say, Hillary Clinton's vice presidential choice, Tim Kaine. That's
Kaine,
how forgettable he is. I'm like, who was he? Tim Kaine, he was pro-life. He was straight up pro-life. That was okay. He could stay in the party. He could not only stay in the party, he could run as vice president. So, don't tell me Tulsi's too conservative. She didn't bend the knee to Hillary Clinton. That was it. That was it. From that point on, she was persona non grata, even though she could have really helped to bring some people who are a little more socially conservative along. She could have been a great spokesperson for the party if you had not treated her that way. But then after the Bernie Sanders campaign, this is when she really drove the nail into the coffin. When she went on her own fact-finding mission to Syria and met with Assad. And in the context of what she's saying right now, that was, you've often made this point, they were supposed to get their war with Russia over Syria.
Right.
And then Trump got elected and they weren't able to get the war in Syria. So instead they got the war they wanted in Ukraine.
Yeah, when we did our show the other day, I accidentally left that out of the timeline. During the 2016 campaign, Hillary was calling for a no-fly zone over Syria, which would have given us the proxy war with Russia that both the Democrats and Republicans wanted.
Right. And then Trump did not allow that to escalate to that level. And Tulsi was running around. Look, Tulsi is a veteran of Iraq. And historically, if you look at the people in politics who have been the most anti-war, they've been veterans because they fucking saw it. They saw what that's actually about. It's not saving fucking Private Ryan like you fucking shit libs are thinking. It's horror. It's death. It's destruction. It's children blown apart. That's what you are egging on by listening to your corporate media, not at all thinking about the implications of all this. She was fighting against that then. As a veteran, she saw what we were trying to do, and she was working to avoid it in her capacity as a congressperson. Then they attacked her when she was running for 2020 because of comments that she made about LGBT. At that time, they weren't using the Q. The Q wasn't in there because I went back and read some articles for this segment. It was LGBT. And they attacked her for comments that she made. Her father's a conservative Hindu. Kind of like born again Hindus, basically, very extreme conservative faction. And she made a very reasonable statement like, yeah, look, I was raised that way, like a lot of people in a conservative family. Unlike a lot of people, my father was very public, prominent figure advocating for these positions. So I'm on the record defending him and being out there for him. But she talked about her military service and how she served with gays and lesbians, and she changed her mind. She evolved. She grew. I thought this is supposed to be what we want. I thought we embrace people for that, right? We want them to grow. But no. Only if she had been a Democrat in good standing. If she had been a Democrat in good standing, that would have flown. But
then even if you don't grow, they make excuses like you did, like Joe Biden, who didn't grow very much at all. But they make, he did all that crime bill shit. That was he was 28 years ago. Come on.
Yeah, come on. It was so what if he called Barack Obama the first black candidate who was articulate and clean? That was just Joe's old
That's just Joe being Joe.
That's Joe being Joe.
Right.
So Tulsi Gabbard, they very systematically did everything they could to not only drive her out of the party, but to turn her into a vicious enemy of their social agenda, because she was on the receiving end of how they selectively deploy it against people they want to turn into an enemy. So, of course, she's coming back with this very anti-woke thing. I don't think it's just a hustle. I think it's also a reaction to what they used against her. And I think that's true of Joe Rogan as well. Look, you started out with Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders. Of course, they tried to get him kicked off his show. Less than a year later, he's saying, yeah, I'd vote for DeSantis. So who wins? You had the most popular podcaster in the country, nominally a Democrat. Not exactly a Democrat, but nominally a Democrat. And now, yeah, of course, you tried to destroy the man. What do you think? He's going to turn around and be like, Yeah, no, I'm voting for Biden. What did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to result from this?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's what's incredible. How stupid are you? Don't you want to win? Do you honestly live so much in a bubble that you don't realize more people find Rogan appealing than find your fucking decrepit ancient mummy Pelosi fucking Schumer Biden asses appealing?
Right.
Rogan is somebody you
100%
should
right.
have tried to embrace and send out there to campaign.
Of course. No, no question about it. No question about it. There's one more point I do want to make about this Tulsi thing, and it is connected to Willie Bragg's comment here from the Willie Bragg Show. Hillary, Obama, and Biden were wishy-washy on same-sex marriage until it was safe to be for it. This brings up a good point that I've been meaning to make for a long time, because we have sort of positioned ourselves as an anti-woke left-wing show, and Tulsi has now gone anti-woke, but Tulsi had...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's in a fucking lane. You stay over there with your fucking ice cream.
Yeah, right,
I just want to read Holly. I've been a feminist all my life, but this woke BS is akin to the fundamentalism I was raised in. That's what I see. That's what I think. And honestly, we had somebody a while back who was laughing at her saying anti-white racism. Listen, I know some people who talk like that, who anything that they don't like, oh, that sounds like white people. Oh, that's a white people thing. Oh, that was black, but then white people got a hold of it. Oh, that sounds like something white people would do. Now, listen, is it the same? Is it the same as if you filled in another race there? Oh, it sounds like something that any other group would do. No, it's not the same. I wouldn't be friends with people who talk like that if they talk like that about any other race. So clearly I'm conceding that it's not quite the same. Is it 100% not the same? No. If your psychology, if the way you think is to automatically blame everything that you don't like on a specific group of people and to characterize them all as having the same characteristics, thoughts, and beliefs, I hate to tell you, but that's fucking racism. It's by definition, that is racism. Now, saying it doesn't have the force because of the cultural and institutional power that white people have, it doesn't damage them in the way that it does when it's directed at other groups. I concede that. And that's why I say I would be friends with someone who talks like that. And I am. But don't tell me it's not racism. It is.
Well, that tangentially relates to the point that I was starting to make there, which is that Tulsi has rejected the excesses of woke discourse and the excesses of woke culture. But if you notice, she had an A record on LGBT issues as a member of the House. Her voting record on quote unquote woke issues was a perfect record. A perfect record.
Yep.
And just like we are an anti-woke show, I am as woke as anybody when it comes to a lot of the actual policies as they relate to like liberal universalist values that we are all equal and we should all have equal rights. I was for gay marriage, speaking of what our pal Willie said. I was for gay marriage in 2004 as a 17-year-old when all of the adults who I would talk politics to said, well, we can't say that because it'll cost John Kerry votes if we say that, right? Because the Democratic Party isn't for it. They don't want it. Okay? So I'm to the left of all you motherfuckers. I'm woker than all you motherfuckers. I've been where you motherfuckers were at 20 fucking years ago. So don't fucking lecture me that I'm not sufficiently enlightened. You didn't know what the fuck anything. You had corn in your Walkman and you're cutting yourself while I was for gay marriage. Okay? So just fuck off with that bullshit. You know nothing. You know nothing. You're a bunch of fucking morons. You're a bunch of fucking daywalkers. Okay? This is not about politics. This is about discourse. What she is rejecting are the excesses of woke discourse, which are doing nothing, by the way, but empowering the right wing. Okay? So if you actually care about these issues, you should approach them from a liberal universalist standpoint. This way you might actually win, and you may actually give some power to these marginalized groups who you pretend to care so much about since 2017. Okay? Because at the rate you're going, all you're going to do is lose them ground. Because nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Tulsi doesn't like you anymore now either.
Right. That's it. Look, that's, and I was hanging out in Greenwich Village as a 14-year-old with drag queens bisexuals, gays, lesbians, and then I would go back home to working class Flushing and tell people this. What do you think they called me? Because back in those days, if you hung out with people like that, you were that. And being that where I came from could get you a serious beatdown. You could not be that in the Flushing of my era, in the Queens of my era. You tell this to these woke people. Yeah, no, don't try to pretend to be an ally. That's not good enough.
Right.
You don't get any cookies. Who the fuck are you? And this is, look, I'm old enough to look at these people and know something that they don't. You are the same exact people who would have run from these people when I was coming up. You're the same conformist, upper middle class types who never like to make any waves. So in your era, this is the way to conform. You're conforming. But back then, you people, the way to conform was to be against that. And that's what you did then too. It's the same exact kind of people, just in a different age with different values. You don't actually have fucking convictions. If it was hard to believe this, you wouldn't believe it. If there were social consequences, this is not what you would back. You would not be out there speaking out about rights for these groups if, as it was when I was coming up, there were consequences for it.
All right, so let us move on to our next topic. I did want to address Kevin's question because it's a question, and Kevin is a paid Substack subscriber, so we want to make sure.
I'm gonna get my ring light back. It fell.
All right, go ahead.
I'll answer Kevin's question. Give me a second.
All right, yep, no problem. All right, Russell's handling his ring light. I'm going to answer Kevin's question here. Do you guys think Gabbard's running in 2024 or just hawking a podcast? That's a good question. I really don't know. When she decided to speak at CPAC, that ignited rumors that she was perhaps angling for a 2024 run in the GOP. So it is possible that she is trying to set up some sort of run. It could just be she is, as you say, hawking a podcast, just building her brand. She's still pretty young. She does not have to run for president now. Sure. She can wait it out. It's not like she's particularly hot now, right? I think if she gets the sense...
Let me just insert. Tulsi Gabbard, if you look at where she is right now, and I'm not saying I agree with every position that she's putting out there. I don't.
No, I don't either.
She's right in the sweet spot of where the average American is. She is exactly where, if you take a poll of what Americans believe, on pretty much every issue, she's right in the zone.
She's right a MAGA communist.
She's a MAGA communist.
She's left on economics, right, center right on a lot of culture stuff. I won't even call her center right. She's center. She's mainstream on a lot of the culture war stuff. And, she's a nationalist in the sense that, she's a military member and things like that. She's got that red-blooded, flag-waving, rah-rah-rah shit going for her.
Right.
I think if Trump looks weak, I think if Trump is off the board, she might see a real opening. If Trump is not off the board, in other words, if he doesn't get indicted, he's not off the board, then I think she'll probably sit it out because between DeSantis and Trump, there's just not going to be a lane for her there. But if Trump is off the board and the field really opens up, which I don't think that's going to happen, by the way, but I'm saying if, then she might do it. Yeah.
I could see her beating DeSantis. She's good.
She could beat DeSantis one-on-one, but not with Trump in the race. With Trump in the race, there's no lane for her.
I agree, but because the Republicans think for themselves, because their establishment doesn't tell them what to do. And actually, I don't know how much institutional resistance she would get. The Republicans, in spite of what you might have heard, their issue with people is not race, it's not gender, it's ideology, just like it is with the Democrats, because they'll always back the white man as long as the white man is the neoliberal in the race.
Right.
So all that stuff is bullshit. And Andrew Cuomo was perfectly acceptable to them when he was running against a liberal woman, a progressive woman, I should say. The Republicans would love to have had, back when he was still popular with them, like Colin Powell as the first black president. They would love to have been the ones who mounted the first black president. They would love to elect the first woman president and have her be a Republican. That's not a barrier to entry for her. That's actually, I believe, a selling point with the Republican voters.
Yeah,
if
I mean,
she
look,
were a
there would
credible
be
female candidate and she's not white. Oh, they would love it. They would love it because talk about owning the libs, right? We elected the first woman president and she's a woman of color. They would love that. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there would be some hurdles for her to clear. I mean, even a guy like Steven Crowder, who interviewed her, you know, the right-wing douchey guy who wears the gun vest, suspenders. Yeah. He said, you know, I like you, Tulsi, but I don't think I could vote for you in a general election or even in a primary because you're too far left on a lot of economic issues. So she would have some trouble breaking through there, but she could do it. Hey, if a guy like Trump could do it, she could probably do it.
I think she could do it.
All right. All righty, cool. Let's go on to this.
Look, if she got the enemy, just last thing on this. If she got going what Bernie Sanders had in that Fox town hall, who here thinks that healthcare should be free and no one should go back, right? If she could get that, they all applauded, right? His whole agenda. If she can get that going and at the same time be like, don't worry, your kids are never going to be on puberty blockers as long as I'm president.
Right.
That's the sweet spot. That is the American sweet spot. I believe she could bring them along. Because Ron DeSantis, he's smart, but he has no charisma. She does. She has charisma. She's interesting to watch on stage. DeSantis really is not.
No.
I just feel against Trump. Trump's carrying so much baggage. In the end, I think they're going to prosecute him. I think they're going to look at DeSantis and they're going to say, you know what? He'll deliver.
Mystic Mouse says MAGA communist is equivocating double talk. We're joking, Mystic Mouse. Hit that subscribe button, Mystic Mouse. I haven't seen you here before. I don't know if you're new, but whoever is new, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button to help us grow this project.
And, you know, maybe if you throw up a nice super chat, you could change our mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We'll rethink the whole thing.
That's true. That's true. If you're gonna say what we're saying is double talk, you know, put $8 or $9 behind that statement, and we'll think about it.
You pay us enough, we'll do triple talk.
Exactly right. All right, everybody, here we go. Joe Rogan hosted the founder of Rolling Stone, Jann Wenner, and they got into a little bit of an argument about the government's role in regulating the internet as that pertains to censorship and speech. So let's take a look at this exchange right here. I'll wait for the overly funded NYPD to clear the block there. I hear the siren in the background.
This is, look, I keep calling them and being like, look, you need to defund the police because it's interrupting my podcast.
Right. At least defund the police between the hours of 3 and 5 p.m.
Certain hours. If you can just do it certain hours. Can I just tell you guys when I'm podcasting?
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, here we go.
All right. They got
the internet's great, and I love the internet's great, and I love social media, you know. But like every other industry in the United States, it has to be regulated. If you don't regulate it...
But who regulates it?
The government.
Do you trust the government to regulate the internet?
Absolutely.
You trust the people that got us into the Iraq war under false pretenses to regulate the internet? Do you think that makes any sense?
Well, wait a minute. I would not... The people who got us into the Iraq war...
It's the government.
Was the politicians...
It's the government.
I got it. Oh, I understand. So
it wasn't the government.
It wasn't the government. It was the politicians,
which were not actually in the government. They're pixie sticks.
Yeah. A little too much Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds for this guy. Not enough, Webster's Dictionary, Encyclopedia Britannica.
He's doing his Jim Ignatowski impersonation.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end, yes, it's the government. But who else is going to regulate?
But if they're going to be in power and they're regulating the internet, they're going to regulate the internet in a way that suits their best interests. The same way they do with the banking industry, the same way they do with the environment, the same way they do with energy, the same way they do with everything. What represents their interests? There's so much. You're talking about so much money involved in disseminating information in a very particular way.
The richest companies right now are the internet companies. Are rich beyond belief.
Yeah. First of all, asshole, microphones over there. What are you drinking a cup of coffee while you're talking on the best podcast in the country? Microphones that way.
You would think he has enough experience to know better.
Right, exactly.
Guy's been in the fucking media since the fucking dinosaurs were getting hit with a meteor shower.
Schmuck is talking to his coffee thermos with the microphones on the other side of the frame.
It's fat, but it's a disruptive thing that has never existed before. I think it exists, and I think where we're at is where we're at. I think we need to move forward collectively as a country with an ethic that respects truth and that it appreciates opinions and reality and an understanding of things that's not necessarily possible with corporate interest involved in dissemination of information.
But there's no way to do that except through the government. There's no way that you can do that except through the government.
Why is that?
Human nature is not going to change.
But the government's not going to change either.
But the government is capable of change. Okay, look, the government regulates, for example, the food supply, or can regulate. Let's take the
food supply.
Yeah, the Department of Agriculture.
Why have they let
Health Safety.
glyphosate infestate all of our foods?
Let's take with one thing.
Yeah, but that's a problem. That's the
I
government
agree.
regulating.
Well, then we better get better politicians in them to appoint better people. I mean,
Okay, so we can get better politicians and we can appoint better people. And his main argument there is an argument that you hear quite often. It's not in itself an invalid argument. It's that we can change the government, right? In theory, people in a democratic state can, in fact, change the government. So what Jann Wenner is saying is that, we can put good people in charge of the government who are not going to abuse state power to unfairly censor voices online that they don't like. We're going to elect some new people, right? We're going to change things. He's the founder of Rolling Stone, founded in 1967 as a little pamphlet, right? Rock and roll. We're going to change things. We're going to overthrow the system, man. Fight the power, man. Who are we going to elect, man? Let me take you back to a year called 2016. This was published on March 23rd, right as the primary was heating up and Bernie was getting some post-Super Tuesday mojo working. Rolling Stone comes out and endorses Hillary Clinton for president by Jann S. Wenner. Now,
And it was all of the corporate media talking points.
yeah, I'm just going to read the first few paragraphs here because it's worth reading. This is who this guy is, right? It's hard not to love Bernie Sanders. He has proved to be a gifted and eloquent politician. I don't know what this is. He has articulated the raw and deep anger about the damage the big banks did to the economy and to so many people's lives. He's spoken clearly for those who believe the system is rigged against them. He's made plain how punishing and egregious income inequality has become in this country, and he refuses to let us forget that the villains have gotten away with it. I've been watching the debates in town halls for the past 2 months, and Sanders' righteousness knocks me out. My heart is with him. He has brought the Occupy Wall Street demonstrations to the ballot box. Okay, where's the but? Oh, here is the buts, of course. Whenever you're talking to one of these boomers, I know that we're not supposed to get generational here, but come on. I mean, let's be fucking real here.
Okay,
and all the boomers in the audience now, of course, you're exempted. We fully understand there are great boomers, but let's not pretend this is not a generational issue, because this is the kind of shit that young people hear from older people all the fucking time as their way of life gets worse and worse and worse, and nobody wants to do fuck all about it.
Well, they did a study on this, and the reason all the boomers are shit libs is because the ones who aren't are dead.
Yeah,
They
right.
died.
Yeah,
They
right.
died
Exactly.
for lack of health care.
Right.
They didn't have the money to live to the ripe old age that Jann Wenner has.
Exactly.
About these fucking opinions.
Makes a lot
You
of
get
sense.
the impression of that generation because those are the ones that are still alive.
Exactly. But it is not enough. But it is not enough to be a candidate of anger. Anger is not a plan. It is not a reason to wield power. It is not a reason for hope. No, anger is a reason to wield power. Absolutely, anger is a reason to wield power.
Righteous anger.
Yes, of course. Of course. Anger is too narrow to motivate a majority of voters.
And we're good.
Seems like Trump ran on anger, and he was able to motivate quite a few voters.
Well, that's
based on
what's
that.
funny. You read this now, and
This is before Trump won, right? Exactly.
It is so clear that he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. And he goes on and on with all the platitudes we heard about why Hillary Clinton should be president. He doesn't mention one thing she actually has done.
No, never.
He goes on and on. She has the experience and she understands how it works. Not one fucking example of anything she's actually accomplished. He makes a point of saying Bernie hasn't accomplished anything. He never makes a case for Hillary Clinton that involves any evidence.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I believe that extreme economic inequality, the vast redistribution of wealth to the top 1%, indeed to the top 1% of the 1%.
I like that one.
Is the defining issue of our time. Hold on, I can't read that one yet. Oh, clean the entire basement on rage. Yeah, absolutely. Who said rage doesn't do anything?
Sure.
Within that issue, almost all issues of social injustice can be seen, none more so than climate change, which can be boiled down to the rights of mankind against the oligarchy that owns oil, coal, and vast holdings of dirty energy, and those who profit from their use. Hillary Clinton has an impressive command of policy, the details, trade-offs, and how it gets done. It's easy to blame billionaires for everything, but quite another to know what to do about it. First of all, it's just terrible writing. You know you own the magazine when you have those two paragraphs back to back with no transition. It's awful writing. It feels like it was copied and pasted from a different part of the article. Sanders has stuck to uncompromising ideals, but his outsider stance has not attracted supporters among the Democrats. Paul Krugman writes that the Sanders movement has a, quote, contempt for compromise. Every time Sanders is challenged on how he plans to get his agenda through Congress and pass the special...
said it. Well,
yeah, right, exactly.
That's every the final word, isn't it?
Every time Sanders is challenged on how he plans to get his agenda through Congress and pass the special interests, he responds that the political revolution that sweeps him into office will somehow be the magical instrument of the monumental changes he describes. This is a vague, deeply disingenuous idea that ignores the reality of modern America. Now he goes on the Aaron Sorkin, the whole, West Wing shit. Yeah. With the narrow power base and limited political alliances that Sanders had built, in his years as the Democratic Socialist senator from Vermont, how does he possibly have a chance of fighting such entrenched power? Now, this is the infuriating quote. This is the money quote. It's funny because Russell and I did not pre-plan this, and we both said that at the exact same time. Yep. I have been to the revolution before. It ain't happening. This is where the okay boomer shit comes in. For all the boomers who don't understand the generational rage that is felt, I have been to the revolution before. It ain't happening. You guys had a revolution, and then you closed the door behind you as soon as a dollar bill was dangled in front of your face and decided, okay, revolution's over. We'll take our gains. Fuck everybody else forever. Sure, Ronald Reagan, take the country. It's yours. That's what you motherfuckers did, and we are living with the consequences. So don't fucking lecture people. I've been to the revolution. Eat shit. You wrinkle-faced, crusty-ass... I almost said something that would get us canceled. Believe it or not, it was about to get... It was about to get more...
If you directed at an old white man, I think...
It was about to get more profane than that, if you can believe it. I caught myself at the last second. But that's what you got. I mean, it's just infuriating. This idea that you fought a revolution... No, you fought a revolution for yourselves.
Yeah, sure.
And then you took the gains of that and moved to the suburbs, and nobody else can get anywhere.
You just took the hedonism part.
Right, exactly.
That's
right. We'll take the hedonism and the money.
Now we can have key parties in the suburbs.
Right. We'll have orgies in penthouse apartments now. Congratulations. That's your revolution.
Without guilt or shame.
Infuriating. Just unbelievably infuriating.
Yeah, and this danger to free speech that people...
Keaton's coming in hot today. It's the playoffs, baby. Yankees tonight. I'm pumped today. I'm pumped today. I'm amped.
Up by the Bronx Bombers.
Got to hope the Yankees win the World Series. This way I'll be like this all month.
Best team money can buy.
Yeah.
This is where it's very difficult to figure out if you are on the left where to jump these days, because Jann Wenner and people like him are going to take away your freedom of speech, and they're going to take it away the whole time spouting platitudes about freedom and liberty and democracy. I mean, it's really terrifying and dystopian the way that they are packaging what is essentially a totalitarian state agenda as an effort to protect democracy. It is very war is peace, freedom is slavery kind of a message. It's very difficult to know if you are still involved in the electoral system.
She's
Where to
right.
put-
Holly's
where to
right.
put-
She said it's fascism. That's true.
Of course. Where do you put your vote? Where do you put your vote? I don't want people like this in power. I don't want people like this anywhere near power. You look at what's happening. Amazingly, we always used to say, well, things get bad enough, I'm going to go to Canada. Canada is rapidly helping the case of the right wing, that what left-wing people really want is a
So you can't get a bank
totalitarian
account in
society.
Canada either. They also close the people up.
That's what I'm
Right?
saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I was just reading today in Barry Weiss's Substack. She didn't write this, somebody else did, but this is terrifying. Okay, so they opened the door to doctor-assisted suicide for people for whom death is inevitable. And then they changed the law so that that's no longer a requirement. They made it so loose that it's a person who feels that they want to die, who doesn't feel that any available treatment is going to be effective. So that's basically anyone. That's basically anyone who's like having the blues, who wants doctor-assisted suicide can get it. What's really terrifying about this is you're getting poor people who are starting to sign up for doctor-assisted suicide because they can't afford the bills. You're there terrible story in there about like a mother and daughter, where the mother has cancer and the daughter has a condition, and the daughter says to the mother, I just don't think we can afford to go on anymore. Maybe we should go for doctor-assisted suicide. And they did do a study, like the Canadian government did a study, which showed that this policy could potentially save them $60 million a year in medical costs on all the people who would go for doctor-assisted suicide. That is a terrifying, and I must say, particularly left-wing kind of a dystopia. The way that would start, the left-wing compassion, well, let people choose to die, and then this is where it goes. They sit down and they do the numbers and they say, hey, maybe we should expand the definition. You look at that, you look what they did with the truckers, with debanking people, and this, vision of, and making it illegal to misgender people. Now, as a free speech advocate, look, I would never do that. I think you should define people, call people what they want. What's that costing you? But I don't think it should be compulsory. You have a right to be an asshole. That's
right.
Part of freedom of speech. You want to be an asshole, you can be an asshole. So you look at this and the whole idea of, things get bad enough here, I'll go to Canada. No, not anymore. And so much of what's happening there is giving credibility to a lot of right-wing arguments about what the left will do with power if you give it to them unchecked. And that's what I see with someone like Jann Wenner, with these establishment Democrats.
Well, that's the thing. It's a certain
want
kind of left of center politician that you're talking about, right? It's not necessarily
and
what we would consider. Right.
No, but those are the ones in power.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. And he defends those. That's what he means. So this is what's so infuriating about this segment. He's talking about, well, yeah, we should give the government this kind of power because theoretically, if we don't like what the government's doing, we can swap them out for better people. But time after time after time, Rolling Stone are nothing but water carriers for the mainstream Democratic Party. That's why they got rid of Matt Taibbi. That's why they kicked the Useful Idiot show off of their podcast network, right? These are two very recent examples. But right there, March of 2016, when the guy admits in his own essay that he's with Bernie on all the issues, but he's going to vote for Hillary anyway. His paper is going to endorse Hillary anyway. That was a point where, not that Rolling Stone is, not that that was going to change the trajectory of the race, but at a time when every establishment outlet, from the Times to the Post to everything, to every TV channel, they were all lining up behind her. That would have been a big moment for Rolling Stone, which has a fairly, I don't want to say radical history, but yes, radical compared to New York Times. Yeah, sure.
It does.
Absolutely.
No, back in the day, this is what I was telling you offline. I used to have a book, which whoever stole this, may they rot in hell, because I'll never find this again. It was a compilation of the best of alternative newspapers from the 60s. Everything from the Berkeley student paper to Rolling Stone was in there. And Rolling Stone was a radical newspaper, as were they all. You wouldn't have even been able to compete in that market space if you had not had radical politics at that time. Nobody would have read it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So like they could have gotten some of that mojo back by endorsing Sanders at that time and
That
given
would
the
have
Bernie
been
campaign
spirit of
some
the
momentum.
original Rolling Stone.
Yeah, and
What
also
it was-
they have they started as this pamphlet, now they are this major magazine, and they are going to go out on a limb and endorse Bernie Sanders because the founder of the magazine agrees with Bernie on just about everything. But no, we can't do it that way. We have to compromise. Anger itself is not a rationale. Anger is not a reason to seek power. Hillary Clinton's the most experienced, qualified, blah, blah, blah. Same shit. So who are you? What good are you? You're nothing.
Well,
You're nothing. You're garbage.
You go back, in
Useless.
a way, Wenner, you could make the argument he was always a fucking prick, because one of the greatest works of political journalism is Hunter Thompson's Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72. We could have had a Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 76. Wenner told him to write it. He was going to back him on it. And then all of a sudden, Thompson found out secondhand that Wenner had pulled support for the project. And then Wenner told him to go to Vietnam instead. The Vietnam War was winding down. By the time, so Hunter gets there in the middle of the whole last helicopter out of Saigon thing. He's there, and Rolling Stone pulls support for that too. He's stuck there with no money coming in from Rolling Stone, no health insurance, no coverage from the magazine, and Thompson had to find his own way back. That's why later on, you don't see a lot of Thompson's articles in Rolling Stone. He was so pissed off about it, he didn't write for them a lot after that. So he was always a fucking prick.
Here we go. I found the comment because Kevin commented earlier. I wish HST were alive to phone into this discussion. Yeah, that would have been fun.
Okay, I'm going to tell you all
have
something. If you're a Hunter Thompson fan, it's going to make you green with envy. It's my prized possession. When he was doing a signing tour, when they released the movie, I got an autographed copy from him of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I had him autograph my copy. I must have been the only person who was there not to see Johnny Depp, but Hunter Thompson. So Johnny Depp's autograph is in there too. Fuck you, Amber.
Right, exactly. That's a valuable book. I mean, you could probably sell that.
I have looked it up. It's worth thousands of dollars because Hunter Thompson is not signing any more books, sadly.
Well, it's worth more than his fucking podcast since no one's giving us any goddamn super chats. We got no Patreon sign-ups.
Maybe I should make them bid on my signed copy of Fear and Loathing.
Exactly. We'll auction it off. Exactly.
We'll just buy a copy and I'll sign it and send it to them.
Yeah, yeah, right. We'll sell fake Hunter Thompson autographs.
Did I say I have a copy? I meant I have a room full of them.
Right, exactly. We have a room full of Hunter Thompson signatures. We didn't say he signed them, but they are Hunter. It is his name signed.
Yes.
On whatever you have a lot of books.
It says HST on it. Okay?
They get in the mail.
What the fuck more do you want?
I have an autographed copy of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Gardening from Hunter Thompson, signed with this gardening book for me.
You can see that back there?
Well, you told me you had that book, and I see the Complete Idiot's Guides up there for a while. All righty, guys. Well, I think that just about does it for this afternoon. That was a fun one. It was a feisty one. Yankees are on tonight. Let's go, Yankees. I forgot who the fuck we're playing. Oh, yeah, we're playing the Cleveland Guardians.
Unless you drive an SUV and study martial arts.
The Yankees are playing the wokest team in baseball. They changed their name from the Indians to the Guardians, so we're playing the Guardians this evening at Yankee Stadium.
Not the Pocahontas.
the Cleveland Pocahontas. Would have been good. There was the Washington Redskins. They changed their name to the Washington Commanders, but for the past couple of years, they were the Washington football team. Instead of the Washington
they didn't
Redskins.
Have a name for a while?
No, they just called them the Washington football team, I think, last year. And The Onion, I think, put out an article a couple years ago that says Washington Redskins team name changes. Oh, thank you, Ryan Wood. Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Now I can justify this live stream to my wife. Right? I could say, "Hey, listen, I made $20. Well, I didn't make 20. I made 10. I got to share with this prick." But
Keaton's wrist is getting tired. He can't give any more hand jobs around the bus station.
Exactly. Thank you, Ryan. Seriously, much appreciated, my friend.
He doesn't have health insurance, so you can't.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But anyway, the Onion headline was Washington Redskins changes their name to Washington D.C. Redskins.
What?
Because they're from D.C. They're not from
right.
Washington State. So if they're going to change their name, they should just change the names of the D.C. Redskins. Yeah, there you go. Holly said, nice to chat, everyone. First time live. Well, thank you so much, Holly. You had a lot of great comments, and so we encourage everybody to
you're pretty funny, Holly.
Here.
You
have
a similar sense of humor to our own dark Jewish gallows.
Exactly.
Humor.
Exactly. So we hope you will subscribe. Anybody who's not subscribed to this, please subscribe. Please make sure that you, like I said, check in. We're doing every Sunday night at 7 o'clock, and then we've been making a habit to do Thursdays as sort of a semi-regular time slot. We're trying to finalize that, but we think Thursdays at 3:30. Is probably the sweet spot there. So some days Russell's going to work a little later. Some days I will work a little bit later. But between 3:30 and 4:30 on Thursdays,
you guys cough up enough super chats. We don't have to work.
Right. Then we don't have to work. Then we'll be okay. We're home by 3 on Thursday. We're home by 3:30. Then it's regular. Right. But yeah. So Thursday afternoons are going to become a sort of regular live stream time slot here. This one we weren't planning on doing live. We just jumped on here because we thought we should, and we're happy we did. We had a great chat, a great crowd. And so thank you guys very much. We will see you guys back here, I guess, in 2 days, right? Thursday, we're on for 3:30. That's the plan.
Yep. That's 2 days, isn't it? 2 days.
2 days, that's right.
Yeah,
2 days.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Let's go Yankees. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Be safe. Be well. See you next time.
Please clap.